Well, today is not Bastille Day? Let me fix that. Hey, can you guys—
Oh my baguette, it is the Lord. What wisdom do you have to bestow upon us, so holy one?
Frickin' frogs. Yeah, sure, I'm God. Can you guys wait just like 3 days to storm the Bastille? Thanks. Alright, so today should be Bastille Day then. Where's my script? What if the French Revolution of 1789 was successful? Let me go fix that. Alright, I guess this video won't be going up on Bastille Day, but that doesn't really matter. So, Videntis already made this video idea, but mine is different from his, and I finished the script just before he put out his video, so it's still my idea. I'm gonna be talking about 2 scenarios in this video. One where the flight to Varennes, Louis XVI, who I'm just gonna call Louis XVI, Louis XVII, and Louis XVIII, 16, 17, and 18. It'll be more simple. But the flight to Varennes was XVI's attempt to escape to Austria, and one of the scenarios is going to be if it's successful, and the other is going to be if he never tries to escape in the first place. XVI's flight being unsuccessful was pretty unlucky, and if he had just been better at planning, then the king would be in Austria, safe and sound. The King of France showing up in a country that historically hated him and telling of the revolution would anger both countries, with France declaring war slightly earlier than in our own time. Things would go mostly the same. Maybe the Reign of Terror would be even worse than in our own time, but for the most part, things would stay the same until 1797, the end of the First Coalition. Since Austria lost, they would probably have to return XVI, where he would be executed, but I don't think that Emperor Francis would be willing to give up his aunt Marie Antoinette or his cousin Louis XVII, the heir of the kingdom who died in our timeline. But he was likely poisoned or got sick from poor living conditions in prison, which wouldn't happen in this timeline. Let's assume that everything goes the same, so 17, son of 16, this is really starting to sound like a number fanfiction, would become King of France after the war. So, what now? Well, since 17 died at only 10, we don't really know much about what he would have been like as a king, but we do know what Louis XVIII was like as a king. 18 was the brother of 16, and a horrible and brutal monarch. See the Second White Terror. But Louis the not 18th wouldn't be the king, so everything would be fine. Right? Wrong. 17 would probably still want revenge for his father's execution, leading to more massacres, a forced abdication, an Orleans takeover, and the 1848 revolution. But let's assume that 17 is a good monarch because, plot convenience, this would prevent the 1848 revolutions, assuming that France slowly modernizes and liberalizes. But since there wouldn't be a radical jump forward, France would probably be a little bit more backwards than in our own timeline. 17 would probably die in the late 30s, early 40s, and his cousin, Louis Antoine, now the Louis XVIII of our timeline, would become king for a few years, then Henry V, and as long as Antoine doesn't attempt to become a dictator, France would become a stable constitutional monarchy under Henry, as he'll be happy to do so since the fleur-de-lis would already be in use. This would cause the Crimean War to just never happen, since there was never a Napoleon III to fan the flames. And let's just go over all the changes. France with a constitutional monarchy, a stronger Russia since they didn't lose the Crimean War, the Holy Alliance between Austria, Prussia, and Russia, possibly remaining a thing since the Crimean War didn't cause their relations to worsen, but that's a whole other thing. No Austria-Hungary due to no 48 revolutions, though that could just happen at a later date, and no Italian and possibly German unification for at least a few decades longer, due to less nationalistic ideals. At this point, so much has changed from our own timeline that it would be pretty hard to continue this scenario, so let's just end it here. Alright, so that scenario was kind of unrealistic since it assumes a lot, but this one is much more grounded, and just like this video, it starts with the Bastille. In my opinion, the entire terror can be completely removed if the National Assembly held the people who massacred the garrison of the Bastille accountable. This would go to show that the National Convention would not approve of any massacres, and so less nobles would flee the country, including 16, and so the people of France would never be radicalized, at least not in the same way they were in our own time. Robespierre and his mountain would never stand a chance in this more moderate political scene, and so elections would mostly be between the liberal Girondins and the moderate Plain. The Girondins would likely dominate early French politics as they did in our own time, except this time they wouldn't get overthrown by the radical mountain. This would also prevent both the Directory and the Terror, but most importantly would be the lack of the French Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars. So let's list some changes. A stable constitutional monarchy in France, no German or Italian unification for at least a couple extra decades, no 48 revolutions, this is kind of starting to sound like the first scenario, no Louisiana Purchase, and Spain would own it. Spain keeping most of their American colonies for at least a few decades longer since there wouldn't be such an independence sentiment. Brazil pretty much becoming Portugal's Canada, not getting independence until the latter half of the 20th century. But most importantly, perhaps countries will be more open to democratic ideals and modernization. That last part would lead to a better, more peaceful world, and it's all because a couple criminals were actually charged for their actions. Or maybe it ends up the opposite way, who knows? But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Also go watch my Napoleonic Wars video, I want to get it to 100 views. And check out @TheRetroHistorianYT. He's a great YouTuber, he just gave me a shout out. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description, and I'll see you guys next time.